this week's show, I wanted to focus on the Yuki Onna. So the origins of the Yuki Onna was actually, from what we know and what's been recorded, was around the late 1300s, and it's probably older than that, but that's what we have recorded. And basically, the Yuki Onna was a snow yokai, or spirit, that would wander the earth, and she would lure in people, travelers that were lost, women and children and men. And basically what she would do, many different stories were very fascinating to me, but from variant things. She would blow her icy breath across someone and freeze them to death. Or like with the Jurogumo, the spider woman, she would carry around a baby, and when people would walk up to hold the child, they'd instantly freeze. That is really cool. I want to freeze people instantly. Favorite things that I like to talk about, even though it's just kind of a side note with her, the Yuki Onna is also referred to as Surara Onna, which means like icicles. That's really fun to say. Surara. Surara. Fun fact number 2, the Zen monk Songi, which lived from about 1421 to 1502, claimed to have seen a Yuki Onna staying in Eichigo no Kuni, which is referred to as modern day Niigata. So if you know of Niigata, that is what Eichigo no Kuni is, roughly. So he actually wrote about seeing her. How fun is that? Most stories of the Yuki Onna are very malevolent. She even goes as far as some stories where she rips out the innards of children while they're still alive. But there is one that I came across that talked about the one that appears around New Year, in which she bestows good fortune and protection, as well as a good harvest for that year. So basically, she wanders around. Well, there's different stories as well. Some say that she goes around in a white kimono, and then some say that she wanders around completely naked, almost transparent in her white, beautiful snow-colored flesh. And the only thing that's visible are either her blue lips and dark hair, or her dark hair and her face, and that's all you can see wandering the snow. So she would go around and do that. One of my favorite types of tales from the Yuki Onna are the lone male travelers, or the traveling tales. One story came about in the early 1900s. I believe it was around 1904, somewhere around there. And basically the story goes, a young man was wandering lost, and a woman, a beautiful woman, as pale as the snow, approaches him. And so smitten by her beauty, he actually marries the woman. And the woman comes in and stays with him and ends up bearing his children. While all this is going on, his father, who had been traveling with him when he'd become lost, had been taken by the yokai, the Yuki Onna. She had taken his life, but decided to spare the man because the man was a good-looking man to her. And there again, we've got that slut-like quality with the Japanese yokai of women, which kind of dates back to fertility and all of that. But in either case, they go back to her cabin, and they have 2 children. And then one day, he starts telling his reaccounts about his father. and that his father is missing, and he remembered seeing something that looked like a pale woman. And harshly, the woman turns to him and she says, "Why are you talking about this to me?" And confused, he said, "I don't understand, I was just telling you." And she said, and then she starts, the door opens and she starts backing out towards the snow, and she says, "You shouldn't have said anything." And she just dissipates off into the snow and disappears, leaving him and the children to fend for themselves. So a lot of stories like that. I've also read one in which the Yuki Onna tells the son not to speak of what he's seen, similar scenario, but it often ends with her disappearing into the snow. Oops. Very, very cool. So, little known facts about Yuki Onna. It's most popularized in Tohoku. It's the Tohoku region of Japan, and that is basically where there's the most snowfall. Another interesting thing is that there's different variations about the Yuki Onna, but one is that she always appears on a full moon and a snowy night, or snowy nights with a full moon. Obviously that's a very popular thing for most cultures because it's very spiritual to a lot of people, especially the Asians that have their, moon deity. And then she kind of is more limited to where she only appears, as I said earlier, around the New Year, which is why it's kind of popularized around the New Year. Another one, like I was telling you, is that she's carrying a baby, and they freeze instantly. Another one is she'll leave a child with an elderly couple, like snow daughter, kind of. She also asks to stay the night. So if you ever stay in Japan in a snowy region and a beautiful woman comes to your door and asks to stay the night, you tell her no, because she will murder you with her icy breath. Another thing is she'll call out to travelers. So just look it up. It's really fascinating, and I'm really only giving you a small detail about it, but came out around the late 1300s that we know of. Ooh. Anyway, next time I will be covering Amaterasu, the sun goddess. So stay tuned for that. For the podcast, hopefully I'll have up either tomorrow or the next day, give or take, depending on the holiday and how long I'm able to actually record. I know it's been a while since I've actually had one of these up, and that's because I've had a lot going on personally. So excuse the delay, but I will probably have a vlog up once per week over Japanese culture and mythos, and then I'll have my personified show, which will be covering the comic and manga industry. My podcast you can find on soundcloud.com/CrystalAnnBooks. That's Crystal with an H and with an E. And this week I'll be doing my Ode to a Fat Man poem on my podcast. Just a silly little poem that I kind of add to every year because me and the Fat Man have epic battles, which is, I'm going to win every single one of them. I might get a leg up occasionally. But that is on there, as well as I'll be telling a short story. And as you know, most of my writing is kind of dark, so if you're not really into that, don't listen in for the holidays. Do listen in, it's a good story. Anyway, take care. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the creepy. Stay creepy. Concludes this week's show. And if you liked what you saw and can't wait to see more, subscribe to my channel. Awesome. Later, guys.
Well, everybody's heard about the bird. Bird, bird, bird. The bird's a word. Well, a bird, bird, bird.